So now you're at Clemson. They got a big-time quarterback, a big-time talent. Everybody's a whatever star. They've already won national titles, right? You're not going to some crappy program trying to turn it around. So how has that transition been to brand new school, first time away from home? Cade literally lives across the street. Literally grew up around here. In fact, I think it's super lazy that you drove here. But but new place, right? You're out in Clemson, South Carolina. Different stuff, different people. You're not the oldest guy on the team. What's that been like here? So he's an early enrollee and is halfway through spring ball right now on 9 practices in, right? Mm-hmm. 9 practices into spring ball on spring break. Out here working and at a kids camp his last day of spring break, hanging out, talking to you guys. What have you taken into Clemson your first couple months?
Since the moment that I got there.
Because you're not the starting quarterback right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm back to the point where I haven't done anything. Yeah. And that's kind of how I showed up, just in a very humbling way. I haven't done anything. And I got to go prove it. So, or not necessarily prove it, just go work for it.
No way. In the pros?
Cade Klubnik, we met last year at the Elite 11. He was Elite 11 MVP. He's 3-time 6A state champion here, back to back to back. Number 1 recruit in the country. You turning red yet? No? The reason I asked is about as humble as it gets. And I think there's all different ways to play this game. Right-handed, left-handed, tall, run around, make plays, stand in the pocket. But the right ways to play it is through humility. The right ways to play it is through work ethic. The right ways to play it is through being mature. Maturity to me is handling brand new situations really well and being able to be poised in those moments. Maturity is not just tucking in your shirt and using good manners. It's throwing you into a brand new situation and you handle it as if you've been there before. Some guys just kind of always handle that right. And this is a guy that, like I said, I can kind of tell you how things are going to go for certain people and kind of tell you how this one's going to go. So, Cade Klubnik, come on up, man. Give it up, man. Your sophomore year here, you were in a competition.
Yeah.
I read a quote that you said it was something along the lines of it was like the best thing that ever happened to you because for 7 weeks you had to compete for the job.
I guess going into my sophomore year, so the freshman year in the spring, I was competing with a senior who hadn't actually really started, but I'd been on varsity for 3 years and had played a bunch of games and played in a bunch of games. Like you just said, competing for the starting job was the best thing that ever happened to me. All of spring ball, I had to compete. Going 7 or 8 weeks into my sophomore season, we were competing every single day, and it just showed me how important practice was. Whether or not I did good in practice that week was whether or not I was going to be able to play on Friday. And that was just so huge to me because I had never taken practice that seriously. I had to literally almost get ready for a game for practice. And ever since then, I was the starter my junior and senior year. I have to attack it the exact same way because if I start letting up, then somebody else on another team is going to start getting ahead. So I just realized how important practice was, and I need to literally treat every single rep like a game, and just attack it and just not take advantage of it because you only have so many practices. You can do all the routes on air in the summer that you want and 7-on-7, but you only have so many team-on-team reps and stuff like that. So, and just time with your coaches also. You only have so many times with your coaches. So I just learned to attack every day. And I'm in a competition now, and to just kind of look back on that, and I already have that exposure and that experience before of going through that competition it was huge for me.
So your sophomore year, you end up winning the job, and then you win a state title, and I'm sure everybody was saying all sorts of things, right? You're going to be the next this, and you probably, when did you start getting offers after your sophomore year?
I actually ended up tearing my thumb, and I actually didn't win the starting job. Senior ended up finishing out the year. I came back, I think, week 3 or 4 of the playoffs, and then he ended up just finishing it out. But I ended up, having a pretty good film just off of my sophomore year.
You started getting offers?
Yeah. Once
you started having success, right, and everyone started telling you how awesome you are and you're amazing, what did you do with that?
I remember hearing a quote a while back, and it was you don't start working whenever nobody else is looking at you. You start working once everybody starts talking about you because you got to go prove it.
Yeah.
So when I started hearing just people start talking about me and or just started getting some offers, I was like, okay, now what? You know what I mean? I remember us talking about that before, but now I kind of have to go prove it and go put in the work to prove kind of what people are even saying about me in my junior year. So we were going into that was COVID year. Going into my junior year, routes on air was the number one thing for me out of anybody. Our head coach Todd Dodge talks about that like crazy, just how important your routes on air is, and I believe it. Just getting with your receivers and working routes on air, and I would be out there for hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe not 2 hours, but hour and a half, throwing routes on air with all my receivers, and then 30, 45 minutes before or after, I would just do footwork and working on my feet and my pocket movements, because you can get so just out of that and not using it at all in the summer or in the off season. So I would really work that with my backup, who was also a really, really good buddy of mine, and that was just so important for me. So I mean, I would just say I just kind of kept my head down and just realized I really haven't done anything yet.
Yeah.
I haven't done anything. So I just kind of got after it and got to work, and yeah.
What about going junior to senior year? Because the expectations are, well, you just won it as a junior. We gotta win it as a senior.
Yeah.
You should be even better. What'd you do with those expectations that off season? And you had Elite 11.
Yeah. I mean, just
The same.
Just kind of kept working. I was just like, all right, what's next? I didn't really look to the past. I just was like, all right, what's next? Okay, I got my last maybe 16 games left of high school. I'm going to take advantage of it as much as I can. Just kind of got after it, worked out a ton in the off season. Went and watched all of my junior film, all of my passing clips, and all my scramble drills and everything, and just kind of what we talk about, but just identifying one thing at a time and just really working on that for a couple weeks at a time until I realized that it's a lot better than where it used to be. And that was just huge for me, kind of going back to what we did in a perfect season, per se, and then just trying to see, okay, it really wasn't actually that good. I threw 3 picks. My feet were awful my junior year. They were still bad my senior year, but just trying to fix all those little things, and that was just really huge for me.
So now you're at Clemson. They got a big-time quarterback, got big-time talent. Everybody's a whatever star. They've already won national titles, right? You're not going to some crappy program trying to turn it around. What are you taking with you there, right? Because in the recruiting phase, you're the man and everything's about you, and then you show up on campus and you're just like one of the guys on the team.
Yeah.
True?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Coaches are awesome, but it's no longer no parades now for you to show up,
yeah.
Right? So how has that transition been to brand new school, first time away from home? Cade literally lives across the street, literally grew up around here. In fact, I think it's super lazy that you drove here. But but new place, right? You're out in Clemson, South Carolina, different stuff, different people. You're not the oldest guy on the team. What's that been like here? So he's an early enrollee and is halfway through spring ball right now on 9 practices in, right? Mm-hmm. 9 practices into spring ball on spring break. Out here working and at a kid's camp his last day of spring break, hanging out, talking to you guys. What have you taken into Clemson your first couple months?
Since the moment that I got there.
Because you're not the starting quarterback right now.
I mean,
that's weird.
Again, I'm back to the point where I haven't done anything. Yeah. And that's kind of how I showed up, just in a very humbling way. I haven't done anything. And I got to go prove it. So, or not necessarily prove it, just go work for it. And just kind of kept my head down. I've just been working ever since I got dropped off the bus. I've definitely been trying to just be a leader by my actions. I think one of the most important things that coaches really look for is you're going to screw up a ton, but to not make the same mistake twice is huge. And then just be in the facility as much as possible is what I've been trying to do. I've talked to some great people that have done it before, like you, and I talked to Sam Ellinger and Nick Foles and stuff like that. And they've given me great advice, and just that's helped me a ton. But one of the most important things was just stay in the facility as much as possible. Just always be in the film room. You gotta love it. So just spending lots of Friday nights alone at 11:30 in the film room prepping for tomorrow's scrimmage or something like that. But just being able to be lonely sometimes and just put in the work. So yeah.
That's great. We're gonna talk about vision, right? And one of the things my mom had my brother and I do, which was awesome when we were little. We used to hate it when we were really little because we thought it was dumb. But she would tell us to go in our room. We didn't have TVs in our room and we didn't have phones. And she'd go, just go in your room and dream about something. I don't know, whatever you want to dream about. And we'd fight it when we were little, and then as we got older, and then I still do it. And so, and I have my boys do it too. But really, it's just whether it's goal setting, dream, vision, whatever it is, it's just how do I see this going for myself, right? We're going to talk about planning and how you build a plan. I'm going to help you guys build a plan for your off season when we get in the classroom. You're a super humble guy, but how do you see this thing going?
I mean, the plan is to win national championship, and I think we got a really good team this year, and a lot of young guys, which is going to help us a ton. Just guys that won't have to play this year and then go to the draft. We're going to have a lot of guys that can maybe play for the next 2 or 3 years. A lot of programs would die for a 10-3 season. So, I mean, for us to just have that, I think is like we talk about all the time. That's still a really big deal. But at the same time, that's also not our expectations there. So it's definitely amped up a little bit. But I mean, I think we got a big year coming, especially on the defense, but also on the offensive side. Just our offensive line, our receiving core, and then we got Ship and Phil coming back, and Kobe at running back. So I mean, that's 3 freshman, sophomore running backs that have all played a ton of games and have all been very elite at what they're doing. I mean, I think we got a good future coming.
Cool. If you were in middle school right now, right? Go back to middle school kid, right? Probably tiny head, no muscles. What would you have done different, more of, or less of?
I would have still played 3 sports. I would play as many sports as I can for as long as I can.
Good. I'm the anti all-in on football guy.
Yeah.
I think you got to play multiple sports.
At Westlake, it's very hard to play football and basketball. I never really played baseball, so I mean, they totally let us play baseball, lacrosse in the off season. But if you're not doing that, and then you're running track, so that was always huge for me. Is do another sport, but still have like your focus. I mean, you could still play another sport and still get better at football in the off season. So like in track, that was huge for me because I'm a huge competitor. So like that was just another way to compete for me, and I could still go throw on the weekends and get all my work in. But just to get better, and it also made me so much faster and just kind of keep my stamina up in my competition. So I probably would have done less moneymaker camps. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm really not getting anything out of that.
Yeah. Like showcases.
Like I did them in middle school, and I'm like, every time I would leave, I'd be like, I didn't really get anything out of that. It's just kind of a way to go. I mean, there's sometimes you can compete with other guys and stuff, but like a lot of times I almost just felt bad for my mom spending $150 on a camp where I just spent 3 hours throwing the football and not really getting any better.
Yeah.
So probably would have done less of those and just try to find more of these. If I would have started this in middle school, I can't imagine where I would be. So, yeah.
Awesome.